we now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks. Ça, ça, c'est ça, que c'est ça, non ça, c'est ça, sol chi sa che nulla sa, ne sa più di chi ne sa. Ecco.
Bonjour et bienvenue à Hyperpolyglotting avec Élise. Moi c'est Élise, traductrice, éditrice et écrivain avec 20 ans de travail. Et ça c'est la transmission en direct ou en jeu des jeux. Surtout GeoGuessr en dernier temps. Et parle des langues, de la linguistique, de l'acquisition des langues. 10-159. Haven't made a huge dent in it, but we're getting there. Okay, gonna do some Chinese now. Night. Night. Month. Yen. Yo. 5. Ducks are drinking wine. Bangba, okay, Bangbas is duck. Okay, I have now leveled up. Let's see what the XP situation is now. 10,340 out of 12,500. And as always, viewers can choose my next language for me just with a follow and a $5 to my Patreon.
Sotto le frasche del capanno 4 gatti grossi stanno. Sotto 4 grossi sassi, 4 grossi e grassi gatti. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Facile. Sì, ecco, la gente... è la cosa che mi dice la gente, sempre che scopri che quante lingue parlo. Io sempre avevo l'impressione, diciamo, di che non era così, non era tan così, ma poi dopo di aver visto qualche poliglota in YouTube, una delle cose che avevo scoperte era giustamente che la metodologia usata da quella gente poliglota che non avevo mai conosciuta prima, era più o meno la stessa metodologia che usavo io.
I buy a computer or what? And here's another example. I like to point these out. For this word for or sounds vaguely like Hogun and the Hok in Hogun in Korean or Waku in Japanese, and that proves it is the exact same kind of character.
Okay, let me see.
Un chasseur, ça son chassé. Ses chassés sont son chien de chasse.
Der dicke Dach.
Okay, der dicke Dachdecker deckt dir dein Dach, drum dank dem dicken Dachdecker, dass der dicke Dachdecker dir dein Dach deckt. Hola y bienvenidos al directo de Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. Yo soy Elisa, traductora, escritora y editora y comunicadora social con más de 20 idiomas de trabajo. Y aquí vamos a estar jugando videojuegos, sobre todo GeoGuessr, y hablando de idioma, la mejor forma de aprenderlo y caleta más. Zwei Zwetschgenzweigen zwitscherten zwei tschechische Schwalben. Tres tristes tigres tragaban trigo en un trigal en tres tristes trastos.
Oh, I see. This says "Diche ishai fui," which means "Do you want food?" But yeah, are you hungry? That also means. How are the boys? Cocine tapon. Poso milao. Pote. Buenese. Proteine. Utros. Protoculo. In the designated chicken eating area, obviously. Okay, still 3 times I have to defeat him. And I don't have a whole lot of health left. This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks.
Monsieur. Livre. Liwe, livre.
Paks.
Mustan kissan paksut posket.
Macieje. Ja. Si. Vysoký. Macieje. Proč? Víte. Kočky. A. Si.
Track 6.
Aspri petraxes aspri apton ilioxex asproteri. Aspri petraxes aspri apton ilioxex asproteri.
Ten coginio panas.
Oh boy.
Da ferad verda ferra ferda vedri.
Hakab. Hefed. 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 Hek. Hek. Hek.
Саша пошест.
А Саша по шоссе несла сушку на счастье и сосала сушку. А Саша по шоссе несла сушку на счастье и сосала сушку.
Mwalimu.
This is Arabic. And it's from Mu'allim.
Juma ni mwalimu mke.
Ирак чимав чипах чемп чавю чи ченчи чини. Чирак чимав чипа да, чирак чимав чипцах чемп чавю чи ченчи чини. Акакит альшит. Хикрine. Акакит альши хикрine. Akakit alshi krikrips.
Oh, thanks to cat sons. Meow and the pictures of the fish. That's they were proud.
Super.
Kupu. Yrittävät. Kuraista. Omena.
Are in the city center. And it's got some interesting aspects to it.
여자는 어느 나라에 있습니까? 여자는 어느 나라에 있습니까? 여자는 어느 나라에 있습니까?
Countries or living things.
兄の名前は
This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So, anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks.
Lo que pasa es que bueno, la manera, y esto se ve en tantos lugares, no es cuestión regional, sino más bien de un problema fundamental de la pedagogía oficial de los idiomas extranjeros, y que la manera en que se enseñan en tantos lugares, en las clases, en el colegio, no tiene nada que ver con el estado actual de la investigación sobre lo que se llama adquisición de idioma.
Doesn't, you can try something else.
In fact, I would say often you really know you're getting it with languages if you can't really explain why something's right, but you just bloody well know it's right. Hi, and welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. I am Elise, translator, editor, and writer with 20 working languages, and this is where we talk about languages and language learning and all sorts of other stuff, and we play games. This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So, anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks.
Perfect. Okay, 3 of 4.
El hospital
還元一級の先というのは、本当に誰も知らない字ばっかりでしょうね。私は
Okay, we've leveled up and it is time to pick another language. Morfar är tröttare än vanligt. Maten är färdig. And let's see what we're doing when we get back. Greek. We're doing Greek when we get back. Ben neredeyse her gün okula giderim. Fun fact. Turkish. Hello, Shakespeare. How you doing? Fun fact, in Spanish, the word for bishop in chess is alfil. And that actually comes from Arabic. Fil. The same word fil as this. Meaning elephant, because the bishop traditionally was to represent elephant units somehow. Similarly, in Russian, the word for bishop is squat, and that also means elephant. Okay.
This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. we now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inès Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks.
Ça, ça, c'est ça, che c'est ça, non ça, c'est ça, sol chi sa che nulla sa, ne sa più di chi ne sa. Ecco.
Bonjour et bienvenue à Hyper Polyglotting avec Élise. Moi, c'est Élise, traductrice, éditrice et écrivain avec 20 ans de travail. Et ça, c'est la transmission en direct ou en jeu des jeux, surtout GeoGuessr en dernier temps. Et parle des langues, de la linguistique, de l'acquisition des langues.
10-159. Haven't made a huge dent in it, but we're getting there. Okay, gonna do some Chinese now. Night. Night. Come on. Yen. Yo. 5. Ducks are drinking wine. Bangba, okay, Bangbas is duck. Okay, I have now leveled up. Let's see what the XP situation is now. 10,340 out of 12,500. And as always, viewers can choose my next language for me just with a follow and a $5 to my Patreon.
Sotto le frasche del capanno 4 gatti grossi stanno. Sotto 4 grossi sassi, 4 grossi e grassi gatti. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Facile. Sì, ecco, la gente... è la cosa che mi dice la gente, sempre che scoprisce che quante lingue parlo. Io sempre avevo l'impressione, diciamo, di che non era così, non era tan così, ma poi dopo di aver visto qualche poliglota in YouTube, una delle cose che avevo scoperte era giustamente che la metodologia usata da quella gente poliglota che non avevo mai conosciuta prima, era più o meno la stessa metodologia che usavo io.
I buy a computer or what? And here's.
Hello and welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. I'm Elise, translator, writer, and editor with 20 working languages, and this is the stream where we're going to be supporting the crowdfunded translation project. Read about that in the in chat. I dropped a couple of links, and talking a little bit more about Lingopie, which I'd started discussing yesterday, and also continuing with video that from Evil Dia, which just kind of mostly just goes to show that he does not really understand the difference between rote memorization and input-based methods. So I spent a couple of hours checking out Lingopie a little bit more last night. Watched a Chinese show on it, and I noticed something that I felt was important to mention. It's an unfortunate sort of thing, but it should be mentioned because there's a lot that is really good about this site, and this actually is just an area that they really ought to work on improving. I just have to get this hyper chat widget where I can see it. There we go. And okay, so here's the thing. I'm gonna try to pull up a clip where you can actually see it. CC. As always, let me know if I need to adjust the audio any. Okay, because yeah. Okay. I'm gonna slow it down so it will be easier to actually see what I'm talking about. Because the thing is, they don't seem to have used actual translators in making these English subs. And the result of that is that there are things that are definitely quite wrong with them. Yeah, damn it, there we go. Mr. Chow Yang's mom. That is how they translate Chow Yang Mama. My tones are wrong. See, in Chinese and a number of other languages, actually, it is often common to refer to somebody by the name of their children. And so what she's saying is actually just sort of a form of address referring to the fact she is Chow Yang's teacher. In previous subtitles in English, they had translated his name as just Sunrise, as opposed to calling him Chow Yang, which is his name. And here, rather than saying what she actually, what this means, like, which it would be more like, we would just say Ms. whatever the surname is. I don't remember what the surname is here. And explain why it's done this way. You have this sort of literal... Yeah, Zhu, right, that's the name. Like, okay. Yeah, here's another example. They translate this as, shouldn't we study hard like him? See, they're talking about, just to give you the context that you need to understand this. Her son, the woman who's talking, is top of the class, but he gets treated really badly by everyone. He gets bullied, and he's very introverted as a result, really. So she's saying, so the teacher is saying the problem is he's too much into the books and isn't socializing enough, which, is kind of shitty since clearly, it should be the teacher's responsibility to address the fact that he's being bullied. But okay. But that's not the problem here. The problem here is, shouldn't we study hard like him? Now, the reason it says shouldn't we here is that there's no actual explicit subject in the Chinese. It literally is more like, shouldn't one study hard like he does? There's no, and since apparently this was done by a clanker, the clanker just sort of supplied we on the assumption that we would be an appropriate way to say this in English, but it isn't. And it isn't really great for learning purposes either, because apart from everything, it's just wrong. If anything, it ought to be, shouldn't they study hard like him? And there's a lot more like this. Ni hao. So, this is just one thing I want to point out about Lingopie. There is, again, as I said yesterday, there's a lot that I like about it. Here's another example. Instead of stitching on the teacher. She's not talking about snitching on the teacher. She's talking to the teacher right now. Nobody's snitching on the teacher. She's talking about the other kids in Chaoyang's class are snitching to the teacher, complaining apparently about the fact that he's introverted and studies too hard or something. And so what she's saying is, shouldn't they just do the same thing he does instead of complaining to the teacher about it? But the clanker does not understand these nuances, and so he gets snitching on the teacher. So, like, Lingopie people, I don't know how many of, like, how much content you watch about, like, reviewing what you've created here. There's a lot that I like about it. But you should employ translators. Like, actual human, skilled, trained, experienced translators to do your subs in English, because otherwise you get garbage like this that is wrong and is confusing. Like, I know enough Chinese that I can actually kind of follow along, especially at least when reading it. So I can tell what this actually ought to be and follow it to a certain extent there. But, like, for people who aren't at that level yet, this could be extremely confusing. And there are plenty of translators out there who would be happy to do this if they were properly paid to do it, and it would make this a much better thing. It's already a really good thing. Again, I overall would say it's worth doing. If you have some money to put towards, language learning, it isn't a whole lot, and I think it is definitely quite useful in a lot of ways. But actual human translation is essential, and this is showing us why. So I just that is just something I wanted to bring up, since I noticed it last night, and it is the one thing that impedes me from really doing an overall positive review of it. That is the one thing that they need to fix. Hire real translators. Make sure you've got actually good translations in your subs. It's essential. So yesterday, partially because I had seen it in recommendations and decided that I had to do it, partially because somebody was in my comments suggesting it to me, we started watching a video by Evil Dia called No Steve, Massive Input Does Not Beat Flashcards. Yeah, that is also true. A lot of what Lingopie does, you can get from Language Reactor for Netflix. It's not as good for YouTube because the subs are often garbage on YouTube. They're just much less likely to have decent subs for you on YouTube, and it shows. It does have the advantage that, like, if you have a smart TV, you can actually get the Lingopie app on it. I noticed that. I haven't tried it out, so I don't know how well it works, but it was definitely an option when I was looking around to see if I could get Language Reactor downloaded on a smart TV. So, I mean, that is potentially an edge over Language Reactor, but yes, it's true. A lot of this is very much stuff that you can do with Language Reactor. So, anyway, Steve Kaufman did a video about how massive input beats flashcards every time, as he put it. Explaining the research, explaining how the how input-based methods differ cognitively in terms of the entire approach, in terms of the entire theory of them, from the approach that is flashcards, which is all about memorization. And Evil Dia made a video that has mostly served to point out that he does not understand any of this. Like, he just does not understand the difference in approach, even as he watches a video explaining it to him. And it's kind of useful for talking about that difference.
Or if you don't like input, you can just...
So I thought, why not look? Oh, okay. So I'm just backing it up a little bit. Let's just watch this through to the end. It's another 14 minutes apparently.
Pure input. And then for Chinese, I'm doing a lot of flashcards with some input, okay? So the difference here is that with flashcards, you're actively engaging.
Yeah, like, this already is, like, he does not understand. If you're not actively engaging with the input, you're not going to get as much out of it anyway. But I don't think he understands what active engagement actually even means in this context. Because it doesn't have to do with memorizing it, it actually has to do with thinking about it. It has to do with really paying close attention and trying to get as much meaning out of it as possible. That, I mean, that level of engagement does not exist with flashcards, but he does not, like, again, he does not really understand the difference in approach here.
Like, with every single word that pops up, okay? That's why it can become a bit of a session, like almost a bit of a mental workout. But with input, you're kind of skimming over a whole heap of stuff, and you get some things here and there. Like, I've shown that...
yeah, I mean, what he's talking about here is actually why input is effective. Because you are getting things. You are actually engaging with the material, with the input, and your brain is making some connections. It is understanding, at least somewhat, some of the messages. Now, there's more than one way to engage with comprehensible input. And what he's describing here is something that you could call extensive reading, which there's a lot of research actually backing it as a fairly effective method. But it's only one way. You can also really sort of get really deep into it. But what he's describing here actually is very active engagement. To even get little bits out of it, you're engaging very actively. It just does not fit his understanding of what engaging is.
Through my Dreaming Spanish series, that sometimes you need to see words hundreds of times before they even settle into your brain. And sometimes they still don't settle. Okay, and it takes a fucking flashcard to get them in there. Like, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do input, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do flashcards. I'm saying they complement each other. They work great together. Like, why would you not do both?
I mean, I've never done both, because flashcards have never been any use to me, so I've just never done them. They're boring. And memorizing stuff has never been the thing that has helped, so I don't do it. Because the thing is, if you're watching input that is about something, chances are a lot of words are going to get repeated in slightly varying contexts, which actually does help you build, you know, a mental account of what these words all mean and how they hang together.
in my brain. Unless you just do not like flashcards, fine. That's fine. Don't do it then. Or if you don't like input, you can just do flashcards if you really want. Like, it was fucking...
Yeah, but that would be useless, because then you're just sort of memorizing words and phrases. And you probably won't actually remember many of them, and they won't go together in a way that allows you to actually use the language.
A bad way of doing it, but like, not a good idea. Okay. And also, some of the critiques here around intonation and all that type of stuff, that's only true if you've got audio to go with the input. Okay, so, like, at the moment, he's not...
I mean, Kaufman was talking about how when you are using flashcards and trying to just memorize stuff, you don't have emotional and psychological context. You don't have an experience that the word is related to, other than the experience of, like, looking at fucking flashcards. And so, yeah, not the same thing.
Audio is just showing reading. Now, I believe Lingopie does have actual audio, but I'm just pointing that out.
And all the while you are simultaneously updating the weighting of different items in your web of connections that relate to that language, constantly being renewed every time you're listening and reading. But you need a lot of it. And it's only the massive listening and reading that gives you the quantity of connections to the language that are going to help you learn. The number of words that you can connect to in flashcard review.
Okay, this is my assumption.
Okay. What do we say about assumptions?
Based on my experience, okay? I have no...
like, there's no need to assume. Because I'm pretty sure he's going to actually explain further. He's been going into detail so far.
No science to back this up. So based on doing 900 hours of just Spanish input versus what I've done with Chinese and flashcards and input, okay? I think if you did just pure input and then you did flashcards...
Like, I mean, part of the problem here is his understanding of what pure input means. He's really only seen one input-based method. Hey, River Rune. And that method is ALG, and he sort of stereotypes the concept of input-based methods to ALG without really thinking about it at all.
Like, okay, let me explain.
Like, I mean, there's so many different ways of engaging with input. There's so many different ways of making input digestible for learners. He's done exactly one. And according to him, it's actually it's working as directed, which he calls failing.
If you did just a pure input approach, and then you did an input/flashcard approach, the input/flashcard approach would be about 3 times as fast as just the input approach. Okay, I have no numbers to back that up. This is just...
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's true. He has no numbers to back that up.
Based on my experience with 2 separate languages. But I feel like that's...
Like, let's remember that one of those languages, the Chinese, is a language where, I mean, he was getting a lot of tailored input. Like, my understanding from things he's said about his Chinese learning process is that a lot of it comes from the fact that he's married to a Chinese woman. Like, he's interacting in Chinese. There is China, he is talking to people in Chinese. He's hearing people talk Chinese. And including people talking to him in Chinese, and that is also input. So, like, I mean, he can make this about flashcards and memorization, but it seems like he's actually getting a very highly tailored input experience with Chinese, in addition to just watching content or whatever, compared to methods where... compared to Spanish, where he's just watching content and doing, like, a modified ALG with it. That is an important difference.
Actually pretty accurate. I would love to know if there's any science around that, and if anyone's got anything, let me know down in the comment section. But that is just based on my experience around the matter. Input is really difficult for getting words into your brain.
Like, what do you mean by getting words into your brain, though?
But it's good for cementing words you already know.
Is limited even if you use a spaced repetition system. So to summarize, the flashcard is based on the storage model of memory. You have stuff stored in your brain somewhere.
See, and Evil Dia has not understood at all what he means by the storage model of memory. He doesn't, like, there's a whole bunch of theory that distinguishes this method, where it's just, you sort of rote memorize a bunch of pairings, meaning to word to meaning, phrase to meaning, whatever. Translation pairings. Versus the idea of building webs of connection from seeing the words used in a context that makes them comprehensible, at the same time as combining them with an experience and stuff. I mean, there is a fundamental difference in approach that he has not shown much comprehension of.
In a filing cabinet, and you're going to go and retrieve it. It doesn't treat, or it ignores the fact that what we're learning in the language is not specific retrieval of items that are stored somewhere, but rather that it's this constant renewal of a network, constantly enriched.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely key stuff. Farsi.
Constantly being reevaluated, reweighted based on whatever the reaction of your brain is to the...
At the moment, he's showing input all as just reading input.
Yes, but it does have audio. You can see the speaker button there. And it's worth noting, one of the things, I mean, I would say is a weakness of the Dreaming Spanish version of ALG is that that they really discourage reading. I think actually you do better if you are not. If you actually have a certain amount of reading to begin with. Especially if the reading actually matches what you're hearing to some extent. I find that's useful. There are, ways you can do that. There, different methodologies, and there's a whole discussion of different methods of reading for language acquisition, intensive and extensive reading and all sorts of stuff like that. But, I mean, I think actually that is a weakness of the Dreaming Spanish approach. That they don't.
Like, if you just... Okay, there's an audio button right there. Okay, cool. So there is actual audio involved here. But that's important to note as well, because you need to learn how to pronounce the language before you go to a reading approach. Otherwise, you're just going to sound like an American speaking the language, or an Australian, and in worst case scenarios, you just...
but people's pronunciation can improve, too. Like, you can start out reading and not get a lot of opportunity to hear the pronunciation, but when you start actually hearing the pronunciation, especially if you can associate it with the writing, so you're actually seeing one-to-one, like, how the writing, how it's written and what the thing written sounds like, then you do improve.
Totally incomprehensible to people.
Content that is being massively read and listened to. So again, the flashcard assumes that there is a pair. What's on one side of the card, what's on the other side of the card. So a one-to-one sort of dual relationship, whereas it's not that. What you need...
Yeah. I mean, and there was a whole thing yesterday where he's like, there's no pairs. There's like 3 words here. There's 2 words there. And it's like, that's, I mean, yes, but the pair that he's talking about is words to meanings, or in this case, words to translations.
Need to do every time.
I mean, like, if he had words to pictures of the context in which the word was encountered, like the context in which the word was heard. And I will say, this is actually one of the things that I tried this out last night. This is a thing I did on Lingopie, and I liked the way they did this. Because when you click on a word or a phrase in their subtitles, it puts them together, and eventually it does like a challenge. And the way they do the challenge, this is what I appreciate, is specifically, they're like trying to see if you get the meaning of the word by showing you the context in which you clicked the word. They're like showing you the scene, the dialogue in which the word was uttered. So it's renewing the connection, renewing like the psychological and visual and emotional context in which the word was uttered, which I think is actually good. And honestly, I wish more quizzes and things like that use that sort of an approach, because it recognizes the fact that the way we pick these things up, the way we absorb them, is deeply contextual.
To trigger an additional regeneration of the language patterns that are in your brain. Now, if you have been following me in my videos, you'll know that I'm not tremendously, I've never been a great fan of flashcards. I've said so. I've always thought flashcards should be few, easy, and immediately before or after studying a lesson. The flashcards
and as close to the text as possible. Oh, he means in time.
To get me through the lesson. And I've always said I prefer a list to flashcards. So I might look at a list of vocabulary items before doing a lesson to prime me or
Oh, cool. Somebody else uses the term priming. I had come up with that, never heard anyone else using it. He uses it. Okay, cool. So when I say it, there's more chance that people who have not heard will actually understand what I mean. And I mean, what he's describing here, I think, makes a lot of sense. I mean, there are different ways you can do this exact thing. I mean, I personally also, if I cast my eyes over a list before reading something, that can certainly help, sort of center my attention on things to expect, which can be useful.
Immediately after doing a lesson, a list, always preferable to flashcards. And
why is a list preferable?
Yeah, well, because you see all the stuff at once. Like here, I mean, you have term, a dimostrazione di come sia, demonstrating how it is. That is the phrase in which it is used, translated in the context, in which it's used in the text. And then una condizione estremamente minoritaria, a dimostrazione di come sia un modello non sostenibile. Okay, so, and then it gives you the context. So, like, you get all of this at once, and you're getting reminded of where you're going to see it or where you already did see it, and that is useful. That is more that is going to be more useful than flashcards, where the idea is you only see one side of it and you're trying to retrieve the thing.
He said to prime him, but wouldn't flashcards do the exact same thing?
No, not exactly. Because flashcards, the whole point of them is that one side has one piece of information and the other side has the piece of information that you're trying to retrieve in response to it. It's like the prompt and the response. So one side says dimostrazione, and the other side says proof or demonstration. And so the idea with flashcards is you see dimostrazione and you're supposed to retrieve proof or demonstration from your brain. What you're doing here is you're seeing them associated right in front of you, all of it. So, abituerai, get used to it. I mean, I would say you will get used to it. Ti abituerai ad essere circondata di. You will get used to being surrounded by something. But, so it is not, I mean, the way it's working in your brain is not the same.
I would say there's one benefit to flashcards, and that is you're not going to work on a set order. See, if you guys have ever worked with a list before...
yeah, but you can do that with a list. You can, you can sequence it any way you want. You could randomly sequence items in a list. That's not impossible either. I don't know why you would necessarily want to do that. For the purpose that he's describing, which is priming. So you're looking at this stuff. The idea with priming is you look at this stuff, you see it, you see like the context you're going to see it in, and then you read the text, and you know that this stuff is going to be in it.
What can happen?
And it helps you to sort of anchor yourself as you go through it.
Is you can become to predict what's going to happen next in the list.
Yeah, that's good, is the thing. That's actually good. That is an association. Because especially in this case, the list is based on context. It's based on the context in which you are going to see these words. So making those sorts of associations and reading the text, actually, those things work together.
Flashcards add some type of randomness to that.
Why is that
it breaks that up a little bit. Although you can start to predict flashcards as well if you don't create like various types of flashcards that aren't easy to predict. But like, I haven't heard a reason for why a list is preferable.
And
well, maybe I mean, he's like, every time Abel Diaz said, "Oh, but I haven't heard this. I haven't heard him explain why." And then like a minute later, he finally starts the video again, and it's Kaufman explaining why.
I do have flashcards. I want them to be easy, so I want both the target language and my own language on the front of the flashcard. So I have never been very enthusiastic about flashcards, but some people do like flashcards.
Yeah, I mean, he said it right there. He'd said it before. Namely, he wants it to be easy. It's not supposed to be a complicated mental exercise of like digging through your memory to try to find the thing that is associated with the thing on the other side of the card. The idea is to sort of give you a little prompt and refresh your memory, rather than testing your memory.
And if I look at it, there are situations where the flashcards are the solution of choice.
Yeah, okay, so here we go. Here you're gonna get, you're gonna get the answer. And this will actually explain this.
One example would be my granddaughter one summer worked in a local supermarket, and she had to memorize the codes of the different items in the produce section of the supermarket so that she wouldn't have to look them up each time.
And for anyone who's ever wondered what a Canadian, or like what an Anglo-Canadian accent sounds like, and the differences between that and actually otherwise very similar like U.S. Northern U.S. accents, you're hearing lots of examples here. It's really quite interesting. This is like because a lot of people who aren't from North America and are used to U.S. English, they often do not realize just what the differences are. And actually, it's even like if you're from North America, it can be really easy not to notice them. But you really do get an excellent collection of examples of Canadian pronunciation. Riveroon says, Evil Diaz assuming you'd use the list to quiz yourself, but the man said he advised using lists for priming. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And here these examples will also explain the difference in approach. I wonder if any of this is going to get through.
As a customer came through and had to pay for the items that they had bought. So she created her own flashcard system out of paper for banana, parsley, asparagus or whatever.
Yeah, because these, a key point here is these are meaningless numbers. Like, in themselves, these numbers are absolutely meaningless. I will say, there is utility to memorizing a list of these codes. If you use the self-checkout, it will become immediately apparent if you think about it for a minute. But so, like, 94061 does not mean shit. It is just a collection of numbers. But, so you're associating it with a visual piece of information. Or a name. You're trying to just rote memorize, brute force all these numbers into you that you're never going to use for any other purpose. Because literally the only other purpose is you see garlic, you key in 4608.
It might be, but there is no connection between banana and asparagus, so that's not a network. That is a perfect example of a one-to-one situation.
Yeah, this is exactly like the connections. Now, if there is some sort of underlying system to why certain things get certain numbers, that can be, then you can approach it at a different level. Like, if it's like a Dewey Decimal System or something like that. Like, if the 4600s are all a particular type of veg, but the 4700s are something else, or something like that. But if it is really just one-to-one and there's really no rhyme or reason to any of it, or knowing the rhyme or reason doesn't help you with any of it, then it's a one-to-one thing, and you're just trying to match associations.
Flashcard is helpful. And notice.
Okay, you could have given a better example if you're trying to go this route. What you could say, for example, is numbers. Lots of people struggle to
This is an example with numbers.
hear numbers in their target language. I'm sure.
Yeah, but the point he's making is that this is not actually. Wow, that's not a great freeze frame. He looks high as fuck in this freeze frame, which I don't think he is, just to be clear. But the point he's making is actually this is not good for language acquisition. That's why he used an example that doesn't involve language acquisition.
Plenty of people go down the comment section who have done a lot of input and be like, I literally cannot, like, I hear a number and it just goes over my head, okay? Because a number is so information dense. But if you create a whole heap of audio flashcards for like a range of numbers that you just
like
want to
he is
work on,
literally not under. It's like he's just had it explained to him, and he still is not seeing the difference.
let's say dates or something, you know, the 2000s, because obviously a lot of people talk about dates from, you know, 2000 to 2026, like the years, and you add those all as audio cards and you listen to them, suddenly you're going to find them when they randomly...
Elmo is looking down. Elmo is distinctly downcast, just looking at his non-existent navel.
Pop up in that content that you're watching, you're able to recognize them better because you're focused in on them. Okay, that is an example where input will just not help. Like, well,
and that is an example where input actually really does help, because again, you're connecting the things. Like, okay, let me use an example. In Georgian, one of the things you have to get used to, one of the many complicated things you have to get used to in Georgian, is that the numbers are very complicated. I mean, you know how in French you have, like, 8 is 4 times 20, unless you're in Belgium where they decided to change it to simplify it, and so there it's octante. But in French it's 80, and 90 is 4 times 20 plus 10. Well, they're even more complicated than that in Georgian. So, like, rote memorization is a pain in the ass. But if you are connecting it, if the way you know, say, Ormutstatskrameti. Okay. Which means 99. Is that you watch this cooker show and it's like 99 grams of something. So and it's a recipe you see a lot, or a lot of related recipes use this exact same amount. So you see the number up there, and it is, you know, associated with, I don't know, brown sugar or something. You will get that association as like, oh, okay, so Ormutstatskrameti is 99. It's 4 times. That's 4 times 20 plus 10 plus 19. Actually, it is identical to French, except the words have a lot more consonants and stuff and more syllables. But so you're getting an association that is useful because you remember, oh yeah, okay, it's the amount of brown sugar that goes in this recipe I like, and Ormutstatskrameti.
But it will take so much longer. I know this for a fact because I'm doing it with Spanish. Like, I'm doing just a pure input approach, and I've listened to almost 1,000 hours of Spanish, and the numbers still are a blur. Okay.
I mean, and to me, this is a weakness of an approach that does not actually give you much reading to do. Like, I would say the way, I mean, for an input-based materials that are trying to get numbers across to people, I think you should always show the number as it's being said, and a little bit longer. You should always show it. You should always show the number, so that the numbers can be associated with so the numbers can be associated with their pronunciation. In fact, that was one of the things that I thought was actually, well, we looked at a thing on Lingopie. It was like it was Greek, and it was like for teaching kids to count by fives. And that is probably that is a useful way of doing input-based number association. And yeah, listening to a string of numbers with no side-by-side associations would scramble mine too. Like, that's not a useful piece of information. It's just random numbers. Like, I mean, but like that video that we were watching, which is teaching kids, Greek kids, to count by fives, you get the number up there. You know, you see pendi, and then deca. Yeah, and you know there's a 5 on the screen, and there's a 10 on the screen. Decapende, you've got 15 on the screen. Icosi, you got 20 on the screen. So you get so you've got the association, and you have a procedure that most likely you already know how to do in your native language, which is like counting by fives, because it's something I think probably everybody learned fairly early on. I don't know. We definitely, I think I would have probably been in grade 1 when we did it. I don't know if that's like the way other people's experience. I have no idea. But it's a procedure we're used to, and it's associating new words with the same procedure. Why is Evil D saying numbers are difficult in every language instead of questioning his learning method? See, I mean, I wouldn't disagree entirely that numbers are difficult. Because numbers don't inherently mean anything. Like, numbers mean something to the extent that they are associated with something. And if all you've got is random numbers that are not connected to anything, that's always going to be a pain in the ass. If you have numbers associated to things, it becomes somewhat easier. But, like, I mean, numbers are different in the sense that they aren't a thing. They are a placeholder that tells you the quantity of things. Or that doesn't, or you know. So, I mean, I don't think it's wrong to say that they are potentially difficult in every language because of their nature as not so much a thing, but a thing that tells you information about other things. But I don't think that but his method definitely is not helping with this.
Okay? But for Chinese, numbers are clear as day. And I did those for flashcards.
No way, is that the only way you did them, though? I mean, so, see, that's the thing. That's the other thing when people sort of self-report on these things. They will talk about the method that they were most deliberate about, and that will be flashcards, because you have to create the flashcards or acquire the flashcards, go through the flashcards. But I doubt that that is the only way he was exposed to numbers in Chinese.
Where the flashcard was helpful, is when you're at the very beginning in a language where nothing connects. You don't see the connection between different items. For example, if I go in a brand new language, I will typically study that in sentence mode, and everything is strange to me, and I will do the matching pairs because it's easy. Matching pairs for that sentence, so small number of items.
Yeah, so matching pairs that are easy, small number of items. The point, again, this is priming. I mean, which apparently he calls priming as well, which is actually useful for me because the term is not completely exclusive to me. Because it gives you a foothold. It gives you some sort of a guardrail to use, a handrail to hold on to connect, to begin making associations within the sentence. If you know, let me see, Laura Shashi at 6 o'clock. And you know that that's something that is in, and you see that in the sentence, and then you can start to look at it in connection, you know, or like se trezeste, wakes up.
What is this matching pairs? What?
What do you mean? What is this? Wait, what?
Pairs for that sentence, so small number of items.
What is this matching pairs?
You have two things that match. La hora shashi, at 6 o'clock. That is a pair. That is a matching pair because la hora shashi means at 6 o'clock. Se trezește and wakes up is a matching pair because se trezește means wakes up or gets up.
What? Are you matching?
Because
Okay, sorry, I thought that was all one language. So you're just matching the
okay, yeah.
English to. See, this is I hate this type of flashcard because then all you do is just recognize the shape of your target words. You're not actually recognizing.
That's actually good, though, is the point, because the idea isn't that the memorization from the flashcard isn't going to get you where you need to go. The idea is that it helps you. It gives you a guardrail. It gives you something to follow and orientate yourself on while you're engaging with the input. That is the whole idea. Everything is about supporting the use of input in order to make it more comprehensible. Like, I mean, it is not about quiz. That's why he says it should be easy, because it's not about a quiz. It's not about setting a quiz and making sure it's like really hard so you feel really challenged or whatever. It's about creating at least a couple of associations that you can use to get your bearings among, when dealing with input in a language you're not familiar with.
Words, you're not recognizing. Okay, maybe for reading this works better, but like for listening.
Well, for listening you would do it with audio, and you would say. And potentially with a visual thing, you would like link the sound with a picture. So link la hora shashi with a clock, and it says 6:00, or like an analog clock doing the analog 6 o'clock thing. Or se trezește, and there's a person getting out of bed. There are ways you could do that as well with the sounds.
It's damn near useless. For production, this is damn near useless. Just...
Like, he just got done explaining what the purpose of this is. And... like, is he not listening to the video he's reacting to?
Recognition of words instantly and reading, I guess this could help. Like,
that's like literally the thing it's for. It's so you have like a couple of words that immediately you can that you have some sort of sense of what they're for, what they're doing in the sentence, so you can start to make sense out of the rest of the sentence. That's it. Like
okay, this is definitely not something I would use in any other case. I actually hate these types of flashcards.
It's something
I would be interesting to know why he hates them, actually. It would be actually quite interesting, because I feel like, think about the way he starts every video, and it's like, hello, grinders. He is very obsessed with grind. He wants things to feel hard. Because and I'm not saying this is not just an individual thing. This is a thing in our culture. We have this whole bullshit around, like, no pain, no gain, and all this stuff. This idea that if it isn't hard, it isn't worth it. If it doesn't feel hard, it isn't worth it. So if something does not feel hard, you don't feel like you're actually achieving anything. And so I feel like that's probably it. He doesn't want things to be easy because he feels like the grind is somehow what makes him achieve anything.
That's kind of fun, that's easy, and starts to, undo the strangeness of the language.
Yeah.
And I think Duolingo provides the same benefit, that a totally new language, which seems so very strange, can become a little bit less strange. And you start...
Yeah, because what you're doing is you're creating a few associations so that there's at least something familiar in what you're engaging with.
Start to build a little bit of a network of things that connect. And a perfect example of that would be when I started into Chinese characters, where initially the characters were simply individual characters with individual meaning.
Now Evil Dia is going to get mad, I think, because we're talking about the language he's been talking so much about
one-to-one relationship at an early stage in the language when I hadn't yet developed enough familiarity with Chinese characters to see how they related to each other and, in terms of some of the components. And then, of course, later on, as I got better in Chinese, I had enough of a sense of the language overall that I no longer needed to do the flashcards because I now was able to take advantage of the...
Okay. Yeah. So here, to overcome the strangeness. So, and again, you're creating some associations. And flashcards, especially with a language that uses characters like Chinese, what you have is it's a different case. You're using it to associate it with a word, not necessarily associate it with a translation. You're trying to associate it with a sound, and you're trying to associate it with a meaning.
Sense of the environment, of the language, the connectivity between different elements in what I was reading or listening to. So in those situations, the flashcard is a viable system. However, when flashcarding becomes a chore, because you have so many flashcards to do.
Yeah, so here we're getting into it. This is the grind thing. The thing that Evil Dia actually really excessively valorizes to his own detriment.
And the flashcards that you were going through are now far removed from when you first encountered them.
Everyone's going to encounter this problem the first time they start using flashcards, no matter what I say. The reason being is because everyone gets excited at the beginning.
Well, maybe listen to what he's explaining is the problem.
They add a bunch of flashcards.
Yeah, Riveroon summarizes it nicely, because numbers are abstract quantifiers used to understand the physical world, and which don't function outside of certain rules. It's pointless to present them without associations. Yeah, because if I say 25,637,348, that number is not going to mean shit to you, unless that is the number of something. It's like if I say 1948. Well, 1948 is only a meaningful thing, really, because it is associated with certain events that happened in it. It's a year that people remember, as opposed to a whole lot of years that, do not have some major historical event that everybody's supposed to remember associating with them. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, he does not understand this because he thinks making it harder is what makes it better.
It's easy to do on the first day, the second day, third day, and then they realize, oh shit, the number of flashcards I've got to do builds up.
But part of it is also what he said there, and it's really crucial, is that these flashcards are getting farther removed from the context in which you encountered these words in the first place. The association is weakening. It is no longer reminding you of this thing that you saw. It is trying to get you to rote memorize a pairing.
You become better at building flashcards. You stop just making flashcards for every random little thing out there, and you start making them around systems and templates and patterns, stuff like that, as opposed to just trying to add a flashcard for everything. Like, my flashcards...
maybe let him finish, because this is totally not what he's talking about. He read the Reddit post that was put up on the screen there, the headline for the Reddit post that was put up on the screen there, rather than listening to the problem it's being used to illustrate.
Are based around trying to teach certain structures to me, to help me recognize and produce those structures, and they're less about trying to memorize certain nouns and stuff. I'll pick up most of the nouns I need from content, like from input, okay? Because nouns are something that you can pick up quite easily from input. Nouns, some adjectives like colors and stuff. However, there's certain things, certain structures, which they just take way too long, and that's where flashcards just become really...
and I think if you really question this a bit, you'd find that that's because these structures that are taking so long, they probably have two things in common. One is they're not really consistent with the way you're used to doing it in English, and the other is they're not common. You don't run across them in the wild often enough that they become familiar.
really handy.
In a bit of content. Then I think the disadvantages of flashcards that I outlined here become a bigger and bigger, burden, become more and more evident. And at that point, you should move away from flashcards and focus more on massive exposure to the language, which is going to ultimately...
Okay, but we haven't spoken of any of the downsides of input. Yeah, input has downsides. Okay.
Really? Like, what are the downsides of input? Like, I will be really surprised if he comes up with something that is a downside of input itself, rather than a downside of a particular way of using it.
What are the downsides? Well, some of the downsides is that you end up sitting there for hours and hours and hours consuming the language, and you're actually not realistically making much progress.
Like, first of all, I mean, this sounds very much like he's talking about, just watching, dreaming Spanish content. And since he does not really understand the sort of engagement that you're supposed to be encouraging with this, and he does not seem to understand that a lot of this is an unconscious process that you don't actually notice. Like, he said you're not making much progress, but when he did the video, part 1 of why he fundamentally disagrees with ALG, brackets, as practiced by Dreaming Spanish, what it turned out was that his progress was very much in line with what Dreaming Spanish said he should be making after this number of hours. So he's making progress, but he's like but he doesn't feel like he's making progress because the progress he's making does not involve the sort of grind that he needs it to.
You're starting to build up more and more connections between the words that you might know, but like, just look at my Dreaming Spanish series.
You're clearly making progress, though.
I'm 900 plus hours into Spanish, okay? And I know for literally a fact, because I've learned Esperanto, okay, to fluency, that I could have done that so much faster if I introduced flashcards. So what happens is you spend so much time on...
Like, probably not, actually.
Input, you feel like you're learning.
But yeah, and you are. Like, I mean, he admitted this in the video we were looking at last week.
But you're not. You just keep refreshing the same old shit that you've already learned, okay?
What do you think that flashcards are doing? You think that isn't refreshing old shit?
Like, I feel like with input, it's one of those things where you get less and less benefit from it the deeper you go into it.
What?
And there comes a point where you almost have to force yourself to go for very, very bespoke, specific input to try and get those words and structures that you want.
Like, the fact... Okay, first of all, again, he's assuming that input is just ready-made content. As opposed to, like, he is not thinking at all about, like, TPRS. I've never heard him mention TPRS. And Evildia, I don't think you're going to watch this, but if you do, check out TPRS. It is an input-based method that addresses a lot of these objections. But here's the thing. If you find that it's really hard to find a particular structure, first of all, we've got this idea that you're starting from a structure that you want to learn. And so you look for input that has it in there, which is not how that works. The idea is that you pick up structures from input. In fact, there is scientific work that indicates that in the process of acquiring a language, whether as a first language or as a subsequent language, there is an order in which people acquire certain things, certain structures, like pluralization, or like different verb forms, verb tenses and stuff like that. There is an order at which this stuff starts to connect for people. I mean, what I've seen has been all to do with English, but it was also old research. I imagine that people have been looking into this for other languages, at least really well-known ones that are easy to find subjects for. But that's the thing. If you're finding that it is really hard to find any input, any content in which a particular structure you're interested in is used, what you're finding out is actually that maybe that structure is less commonly used than the frequency of use does not justify the intensity of your interest in it.
And you could just speed that up with some flashcards, like, because like there's a certain, you've all heard the thing before where someone says, you know, there's like 2,000 words that are commonly used every single day in the language. Okay, those 2,000 words, blah blah blah, and it's not really accurate, but let's just go with that number for now. 2,000 words. Well, that means you're going to get smashed with those 2,000 words. You're going to probably get good at those 2,000 words, but everything else you're not going to hear enough.
Like, already, once again, it's a rote memorization task to him. Like, if we remember that guy who had the thing that was kind of clickbaity, but actually, I mean, not bad in a number of ways. It's like, I was going to learn Chinese in 30 days or whatever. And the first 10 days were basically wasted because he was thinking about it the way Evil Dia is thinking about it here. Namely, a memorization task. You're absorbing words and translations. And he was trying to cram, a ridiculous number of new words and their translations every single day. And he was getting nowhere with it. And what did he do? What did he do? He started to talk to people who were good at it. And when he talked to people who were good at it, they said, no, you can't do it this way. You need input. You need to be building a network of mental associations if you want these things to stick, if you want to actually be able to develop in the language, you need to be doing this a completely different way. You need to think of it as a different task than you're thinking of it as. And Evil Dia has, not managed to get beyond that level. He's still thinking of this as memorizing things. Even if you memorize all these words, that doesn't mean that you have, the structures that allow you to meaningfully use them.
To really, cement it in your brain, you're going to have to consume hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of input just to get those few additional...
Okay, why is it two?
Words, okay. When the flashcards, it can help you out, this is not a one thing or the other. There's benefits to both.
Enable you to develop the web of connections that you need in order to understand better and eventually produce the language better. So people are going to say that I'm unfair, that I'm prejudiced against flashcards. I'm not prejudiced against anything that people like to do.
Yeah, I mean, and what he said here, he has pointed out a couple of very useful places where flashcards or this sort of memorization of a couple of matching pairs can indeed be useful. And so he's not but it's just a very limited context in which it's useful.
Because the fundamental, rule number one in language learning is do the things you like to do.
And it's worth noting, I mean, Steve Kaufman has learned way more languages than Evil Dia has. So maybe he actually does know a few things about this.
If you like to do certain things and if you stay with it, you will improve.
That's good. I agree with that fully.
However, based on my understanding of how the brain learns, my belief right now is that if you want to be more efficient in...
I think the issue is your understanding of how to use flashcards.
He literally uses his understanding of how to use flashcards, of how flashcards are meant to be used, is actually quite... Evil Dia was not actually... Apart from just not understanding what a pair is in these contexts, which was the main thing, he was clearly just not understanding how these things are used
efficiently. So you built up kind of a straw man about how to use flashcards there at the beginning.
Well, if Evil Dia thinks that, he did not actually show it, because he went through he showed his deck of high level, extremely well done flashcards, that doing flashcards the right way, you know, and all that, and absolutely nothing about the way Evil Dia uses flashcards in any way contradicts what Kaufman was saying. It's just that Evil Dia did not understand what Kaufman is saying.
And maybe that's based on historical trends, but it's not based on how I promote the use of flashcards.
Yes, it is. Like, literally. I mean, you go back, if you didn't see yesterday, go back in the VOD. Hey, the first part of this video that we watched yesterday, he goes through how he uses flashcards and tries to say that it's not the same way, that it doesn't fit the description that Kaufman is giving. Except the thing is, it does. He just doesn't understand, like, concepts like matching pairs.
Many other YouTubers promote the use of them. So...
Well, I mean, if lots of YouTubers promote something, then clearly it must be good.
This is not really an input versus flashcards thing. This is an input versus your understanding of how flashcards are used, which...
And Evil Dia's understanding of how they're used
does not represent how the vast majority of people use them. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys have enjoyed.
Okay. I'm going to take a little bio break. I will be back in just a few minutes. And in the meantime... do check out the... where the hell's this window? The crowdfunded translation project. I'm going to drop a couple of links here. One is where to support it, and the other is where to read the finished translations. And any help getting the word out about this project is also very much appreciated, because it gets throttled by all the fucking algorithms. So, anyway, quick bio break, back in a minute. Hi, and welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise. I am Elise, translator, editor, and writer with 20 working languages, and this is where we talk about languages and language learning and all sorts of other stuff, and we play games. This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks.
Perfect. Okay, 3 of 4.
El hospital.
還元一級の先というのは、本当に誰も知らない字ばっかりでしょうね。私は
Okay, we've leveled up, and it is time to pick another language. Morfar är tröttare än vanligt. Maten är färdig. And let's see what we're doing when we get back. Greek. We're doing Greek when we get back. Ben neredeyse her gün okula giderim. Fun fact. Turkish. Hello, Shakespeare. How you doing? Fun fact, in Spanish, the word for bishop in chess is alfil. And that actually comes from Arabic. Fil. The same word fil as this. Meaning elephant, because the bishop traditionally was to represent elephant units somehow. Similarly, in Russian, the word for bishop is squab, and that also means elephant.
This is Elise with an update on the ongoing Inessa Armand translation project. We now have 37 of the 38 extant essays and speeches by Inessa Armand translated into English for the first time. And we are just short of the halfway mark on the fundraising progress as well. This enrichment of the English language Marxist canon has only been possible with your support, and it's been a real lifeline for me. So anyone who would like to support this project can find links in the description for how to do so, and everybody who has already supported it has my sincerest thanks.
Ça, ça, ah c'est ça, che c'est ça, non ça, c'est ça, sol chi sa che nulla sa, ne sa più di chi ne sa. Ecco.
Bonjour et bienvenue à Hyper Polyglotting avec Élise. Moi, c'est Élise, traductrice, éditrice et écrivain avec 20 ans de travail. Et ça, c'est la transmission en direct ou en jeu des jeux, surtout GeoGuessr en dernier temps. Et parle des langues, de la linguistique, de l'acquisition des langues.
10-159. Haven't made a huge dent in it, but we're getting there. Okay, gonna do some Chinese now. Nei. Nei. Man. Yen. Yo. 5. Ducks are drinking wine. Bamba, okay, Bambas is duck. Okay, I have now leveled up. Let's see what the XP situation is now. 10,340 out of 12,500. And as always, viewers can choose my next language for me just with a follow and a $5 to my Patreon.
Sotto le frasche del capanno 4 gatti grossi stanno. Sotto 4 grossi sassi, 4 grossi e grassi gatti. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Un généreux déjeuner régénéré des généraux dégénérés. Facile. Sì, ecco, la gente... è la cosa che mi dice la gente, sempre che scoprisce che quante lingue parlo. Io sempre avevo l'impressione, diciamo, di che non era così, non era tan così, ma poi dopo di aver visto qualche poliglota in YouTube, una delle cose che avevo scoperte era giustamente che la metodologia usata da quella gente poliglota che non avevo mai conosciuta prima, era più o meno la stessa metodologia che usavo io.
I buy a computer or quack, and here's another example. I like to point these out for.
And I'm back. And so, yeah, that was... I mean, I found that useful just because it helps explain the difference between, just the fundamental difference in approach between sort of memorization-based approaches and input-based approaches. And also, like, why Evil D is actually making things harder for him than he needs to, and really does not really understand the difference between these methods. Like, he has ALG, and it's like the only method that he really knows about that's input based. Yeah, it really is. Like, even when it's being explained to him, he is so set up in this mental model of how learning works and what effort curves are supposed to be like. Like, there are things where that makes total sense. Like, I mean, I do, I've been, like, doing endurance training on a treadmill. And, yeah, if you want to get anywhere with that, it has to be hard. It has to be at sort of the limit where you can just manage it. And you go at it until eventually it becomes less hard, and then you adjust it and you move it up. And stuff like that. And so, like, there are situations where that model totally makes sense. But this is not it. This is not, like, language acquisition. It does not get more effective the more of a pain in the ass it is for you. It actually is more effective the better a time you're having while you're doing it, to a great extent. And in that spirit, there's a part 2 to why I fundamentally disagree with ALG. And that was interesting just because he was reacting to a lecture I had not actually seen before from what apparently, I forget his name, but a leading proponent of the approach. So I thought we would like look at that a little bit more. And it will also help connect up this discussion of...
What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel.
Like, he valorizes things being hard. And wow, he's red. Like, automatic white balance is your friend. God, he's like almost as red as fucking Elmo. Is he in hell? Is Evil Dia in hell? I think that's a little harsh. I don't think just because you don't understand input-based methods, you ought to go straight to hell.
Today we're going to do part 2 of why I fundamentally disagree with ALG dreaming Spanish. Now, if you saw this video...
Oh, spilled tea. I mean, and this is another thing. I just kind of noticed this. But like when he talks about flashcards, he breaks it into a million different, very granular things. Actually, many distinctions that don't really make as much of the difference as he thinks they do. But when he's talking about input-based methods, he collapses it all together. So input-based methods for him is ALG, and ALG for him is dreaming Spanish, even though like the lecture he was looking at actually made it clear that there is a definite difference between ALG as originally conceived and the approach that dreaming Spanish uses. He like lumps all this stuff together, and his entire critique is based on that.
You know it was a long one. It was 1 hour and 13 minutes, in which I reacted to the first 4 videos by David Long on his speech about what is ALG, the Automatic Language Growth Method, okay? Now, I decided to do this because...
Groined, like, that actually brings in a whole new association.
Because I've had a lot of people in the ALG
that also kind of does connect with things being hard
community react to my videos, or they even just talk on, you know, Reddit and different places saying that I don't understand ALG, etc., and I should have...
Yeah, I mean, you don't. That is a big part of the problem. Yeah, I mean, he's in hell. He's in the bad place. The bad place is where you go when you don't understand methodological differences.
Watched his speeches, when in fact I had watched his speeches before I even started my little challenge, but I decided to do a full react for the community just so I could point out that, you know, I've done it, okay? And I did the first...
Like, it's not just enough that you've done it, though. You need to understand it. You need to actually, like, this level of engagement, it's like maybe understand that why people are proposing these things. Because it's like he assumes that everybody thinks about language acquisition the same way he does. Fundamentally, it's kind of a memorization task. And the thing is that if you don't understand that it is coming from a totally different understanding of exactly what you're doing, you're never going to be able to make sense out of it.
4 videos. Now, I honestly thought that this video would be a dud. No one would care about it. But a bunch of you really fucking loved it. I even got subs off of this, which was actually surprising to me, and it's still getting views right now. So I figure I might as well finish this off, because there was a lot of requests that I go to video 5 and 6 and just finish off, have the complete series like on my channel, okay? And then maybe, because some people suggest I go basically react to the podcasts that he's done with a few different creators, some of them which...
Actually, I mean, that sounds like something I might do. I have to find these David Long podcasts, because, I mean, I think David Long actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know that ALG is exactly the method that I would suggest, I think, but I think it makes sense as a method. I mean, this has actually really made me appreciate ALG more. I mean, people who've been watching the stream for a while will know there was a point where I had no idea what the hell ALG even was. I had never heard of it. My respect for ALG has come entirely from watching Evil Dia try to poke holes in it. Now there's part of me, it's like, okay, I think I might, like, try to just ALG my way through, you know, some language or other. Have to figure out maybe if there are actually ALG friendly materials for a language, but I mean, why the hell not?
Are like hours long. So let's begin. Now, for those who have not seen my previous video, go watch it. Don't watch this video first if you have not seen it.
I mean, like, Thai is a language I have long been interested in and have never really gotten anywhere with. And obviously Thai has a lot of ALG material, since it seems to be like the first language that anyone ever did ALG with. So, I mean, shit. I think I might just try that out.
This will make absolutely no sense. You are literally being dropped into the middle of a discussion that's been going on for a while. So go watch it. Now, for those who did watch it, let me give you just a quick update on what we were last discussing.
It also will make no sense because it's a discussion that Evil Dia participates in, though does not understand entirely what it's about.
Was talking about guessing and how children guess meaning of words that they're hearing, different to how adults do it and how adults seek precision, while children just let things flow over them. Now,
yeah, I mean, and the point he's making is that guessing is the associations in your brain beginning to form. Because if you're able to come up with a guess, that means you've got enough associations going on that you can start to say, oh, this word, I think I have some idea of what this word is based on what's happening when people say it. Comprehensible Thai, eh? You know, I think I might have to do this. Like, for one thing, Thai is a language I've long been curious about. And for another thing, just to test out, like, ALG as a method.
Now, I do have one gripe. I think I mentioned in my previous video, but I'll mention it anyway right now, okay? I don't like the term guess that they use here, because guessing to me is an active process.
This is an active process, though. Like, this literally is an active process. This is part of what he doesn't understand. He thinks that because you're, like, I mean, is he turning his brain off when he watches the stuff? When he, like, watches Dreaming Spanish content? I mean, I get the impression he feels like that is what you're supposed to be doing, but it is an active thing. The guessing is an active thing. You're saying, sachari. Sachari. I think that's sugar, isn't it? Like, it's a white, sort of coarse powder that they keep on holding in their hands when they start talking about sotas sachari. I think it's sugar. Like, it is an active process. It is very active.
If I see something and I perform a guess, I'm making a decision, right?
Yes.
Like, that's just inherent to the meaning of the word
yes.
to me, okay? So some type of decision's being made about what it is.
Yes,
however,
that's the idea.
The way that they use guess actually means to perform a subconscious, like, figuring out of the meaning of something.
Well, no. They're saying that is the underlying process that makes those guesses happen. There is a subconscious part of this that is happening that leads to the ability to make the active decision, oh, sachari is sugar, isn't it? You know.
Just based on his context. In fact, you should at no point be actively trying to figure something out, trying to think, trying to guess. You should just let it happen. And
yeah, like, he actually does think you're supposed to turn your brain off.
I think he'll probably stress that again. Let's go.
So our adult desire to do that quickly needs to be put aside. Get comfortable guessing. All right? That's how you understand what's going on. What that means in practice is when the student arrives in our classroom for the first day, they might be a bit lost. But after the first week, their understanding of what's going on rises to an easy 80%. Normally, if they're setting aside the adult tendency, what's this word mean? What's that word mean? Oh, I heard this yesterday. Put it all behind you. Step out and let the rain wash over you. Don't worry about each drop. All right?
See, this is why I have to stress.
Like, it's like he's describing two different things here. Two very closely related things. But it's like, Evil Dia, I think, has this, like, aversion to any level of theory that isn't immediately tangible and concrete. And so, when he hears the discussion of the unconscious process that makes the conscious guessing possible, he is not understanding that it's like these are phases of a thing.
Yes, okay. That there is no active thinking going on in ALG. You should be just sitting there watching the content.
No, that is not what he's saying exactly. It isn't. There is active thinking. There is not a search for. There isn't an active search for precise meaning. Those are two different things. There's a lot of active thinking because you're hearing all this stuff. You're seeing all this stuff. There is a lot of active mental processing going on because, you know, there's meaning being communicated and you don't know what it is. And so gradually you are observing patterns, and those patterns become associations, and those associations lead you to say, I think I got that one. I think I understood a word. I think there is a thing that now has meaning to me that did not previously.
Or as it was traditionally done, watching the class, the teacher, okay, and just living in the moment without trying to actively engage, trying to think about stuff. This is why whenever someone comes into my comment section, they say, hey, ALG is working great for me. And I'm like, okay, what are you doing? They're like, well, I'm just doing what you're doing. But I guess I look up words every now and then. And, you know, I've used flashcards a little bit over here. I did some grammar study. I'm like, that's not ALG. What you've done is mass amount of input with some word lookups and some grammar study. It's not ALG. ALG, it's fundamental to the actual methodology that you do not try to figure stuff out. So,
yeah, again, trying to, it would be really good if he tried to figure stuff out when he was exposing himself to information about methods. Like, I mean, it feels like he's really committed to this idea of sort of turning his brain off and not thinking about things, to the extent that even when something's being explained to him, somehow he does not understand what is going on.
I need to point that out because it's very black and white as a methodology.
It isn't, though. It's just you're not understanding it.
Literally every other method to learn a language that I can think of, there's no point where they're like, you're not doing the method because you decided to add something else onto it, okay? Like direct method, if you decide to go do flashcards and study, grammar, even though direct method doesn't, like, specifically use that stuff, they're not, like, teachers of direct...
I mean, it reminds me of, like, a sex pestiny on politics, you know? It's the same sort of hostility to any level of theory that goes beyond the surface. Like, everything has to be out there on the surface, has to be extremely concrete. You know, there's no gray, there's nothing unseen happening.
method. I was one of them. I've got an Esperanto channel where I teach Esperanto by direct method. There's no point where we're going to go, well, you're not doing direct method anymore. Okay, because for ALG, the fundamental thinking of the method is it works as long...
But who's saying you're not doing ALG anymore? I mean, somebody who rejects ALG and also does not quite understand ALG.
As long as you don't do those things, okay? So what is not present is actually important.
Let that happen. All you do is sit there and get as much guessing going as you can. Guess about this, guess about that. What happens if you make the wrong guess? It's all right. Further experiences will sort those guesses out.
Again, I don't like how guess is being used here.
Again, he does not understand how guess is being used here.
Actually, his where he was talking about letting it wash over you, like let the raindrops...
These are stages, for fuck's sake.
Just hit you type of thing. That's better for what they mean by guessing, because
well, maybe we should listen to the guy who is a major practitioner of the method talk about what's better for what they mean by guessing. Because he says, well, let things wash over you, but then he also says guess. So maybe the reason he's using two different terms is that he's describing two different parts of a process. Like, this guy is actually, like, I don't know, Elmo-splaining evil, like, fucking ALG to a leading practitioner of it. Like, no, you've got it wrong. You were right when you were saying wash it, let it wash over you. You don't, what do you mean, guessing? Like, it's a fucking, like, listen to him. Maybe take it as read that when he's describing two different things, he means to describe different things. That this is a process. That the idea is that as you let it wash over you, all of it, including like the visual context and all that stuff, you let it wash over you, and gradually there will start to be blips. You'll start to say, oh, I heard, you'll start to notice you heard things before. And you'll start to notice, and you will start to tune in, and you will tune in on the context where you hear these things over and over again. And all of a sudden, it will start to make more sense, and then guessing starts to happen. Like, this is a mental process that starts with letting stuff you don't understand wash over you, and then progresses on to, like, drawing preliminary connections.
As raindrops hit you, and that's you essentially starting to figure out the context.
No. The raindrops hitting you is not you figuring out the context. The raindrops hitting you is the thing that gives you data points that as they come together and as you see more, you start to notice little patterns vaguely at first. And then you start to work out, yeah.
Not like tracking every single raindrop.
For you. You don't have to worry about it. And what we found is those who guess best wind up with the best language in the end. The highest levels of fluency.
Yeah, because they're forming associations. And the more, it's all about forming associations.
So essentially, those who avoid doing all that stuff an adult does is the ones who have the best learning at the end, or the best understanding and usability of the language. Now, this is not my thoughts. I'm just kind of putting you guys into his head.
Except you're, like, telling us that what he's saying is going on in his head is not what it is. Like, I mean, he is, it's like he's incapable of taking these things on their own terms. Like, I mean, it was the same thing with Steve Kaufman. Steve Kaufman was just making a basic point that there's a difference between the mental process of rote memorization and the entire model on which all the sort of rote memorization-based tools are based, and, an input-based method, which is based on forming all of these associations and that start out quite chaotic and gradually become more ordered.
and those are for different things, and he was like, no, it isn't. And it's because he refused to consider that there was a fundamentally different way of thinking about this.
Understanding what he means, because I've been engaged in this shit for 900 plus hours.
Well, yeah, take that, David Long. He's been listening to ALG content for 900 plus hours. What the fuck do you know, David Long? Now I want to look up a pause to look up David Long ALG. One of the... Okay. I'm trying to find a bio of the man. Yeah, what would you know about ALG, David Long, coordinator of the AUA Thai program? What would David Long, creator of... well, no, he's not creator of ALG. That's just somebody on Reddit being wrong. One of the first and foremost successful ALG Thai learners in AUA know about ALG. I mean, he just assumes that he already knows everything there is to know about it because he's done some of it. And a leading practitioner couldn't possibly know what the deal is. Couldn't possibly teach him anything.
Point, okay? Not all of you guys have gone down that route.
One other objection some people have from time to time is, as an adult learning through the ALG method, I'm not a child anymore. Just quite frankly, I'm not 1 year old. So with that in mind, how do we respond to that? I think it's true that we're not, and that's the problem. If you were, we wouldn't be having this discussion in the first place. We wouldn't be learning how to do it the child's way, would we?
Again, this is why people say ALG is the child's way, because that's what they keep aiming for.
Now, not to prejudge what David Long's about to say here, but I have a feeling part of the point that, I think, and I've said this a number of times, that actually to the extent that it is true that, that there is a fundamental difference there, it is a difference that actually makes it easier for people to apply methods like this later in life, because you have at least some familiarity with the underlying things that the language is being used to describe, even if you don't know the words. That is actually an advantageous position compared to being in a position where you have absolutely nothing in terms of associations.
Adults have a lot of experiences, and it's a natural now tendency to say, what does this word mean? What does that sound mean? And so I think it's important that we actually focus, instead of trying to remember things, we need to focus ourselves on trying not to use those adult tendencies. Can you do that? If you determine, sure. It's a lot easier to adjust the way you're accustomed to listening than it is to try to remember 20 new words every day.
And it's actually interesting knowing what I just found out about him, because I wasn't really familiar. I assume that since everybody recommends his lectures on what ALG is, that he was a leading practitioner of it. But what I did not know is that he comes at it as well from a learner's perspective, that this is how he learned Thai. It was something I can't judge because he's speaking English here, and I don't understand I don't understand Thai at all. I know what it sounds like, but that's it. But so when he's talking about this, he's not just talking about this as somebody who is teaching it. He is talking about this as somebody who has actually gone through the process himself, which I think is actually really important, because then you actually know what it feels like from the inside.
For the quiz that's bound to happen. Let's face it, you learn 20 new words every day. By Friday, you've forgotten what the words on Monday were.
I don't agree with.
Oh, wow, I'm shocked. He doesn't agree. Yeah, somebody else is coming for rote memorization, and Elmo's boy here does not agree.
That I've spoken about flashcards plenty of times and how to utilize them, but I'm not going to get into a discussion over that stuff. I will say one thing though: when you use flashcards and you do forget stuff, you are keenly aware of the fact that you've forgotten stuff, because literally a flash.
Yeah, but okay, so what? Like, okay, you're keenly aware that you've forgotten stuff.
Card pops up in your face and says, "Do you remember this?" And you'll be like, "Fuck, no, I don't." like
why does that help though? Why is that good? And it does not mean, like, okay, so it pops up in a flashcard, and this reminds me, I mean, this goes back to, like, my discussion yesterday about Lingopie, because my mom, who was setting it up for herself on the free trial for French, he loves the flashcards. He loves exhibitionistic cards. She was doing this quiz that's supposed to test your level. And the thing about the quiz is it was very much sort of matching pairs. It was very flashcardian. You know, you had French words and you had English translations, and all of them, like, every single word was something where you could actually come up with multiple different ways of translating it in different contexts. And my mom was getting nowhere with it. And so I just stood there and I said things in French, sentences in French, using the words, and all of a sudden she had them. So, like, just because you have a flashcard and the flashcard, has Ausrüstung on it, and you look at the what the fuck is Ausrüstung? I don't remember this. I did this the other day. Fuck. But on the other hand, if you say das Fahren im All ohne taugliche Weltraumfahrtausrüstung ist äußerst gefährlich. You'd be like, Raumfahrtausrüstung. Yeah, okay, and you got it, because you were reminded, you heard it in a context, and that context brought up associations, and those associations got you there. So, like, the fact that that in this context-free zone that is rote memorization tools, like flashcards, you're like, oh shit, I forgot it. That doesn't mean anything. And anyone, like native speakers will have the experience of, like, being confronted with a flashcard type thing. Where, you know, it's like context free. What is the English for this word or something like that? And you know the English for the word, and you know the meaning of the word because it's, you know, you're a native speaker of the fucking language. But you're doing it in a way that is completely unconnected to the way your brain actually, knows things.
Of it, okay. But the fact that you're forgetting stuff is not unique to that method, you know, using flashcards. In fact, it's a major part of even ALG, okay, because, like,
the difference is, like, what if you listen to what David Long was just saying, you would know he was saying you're not supposed to be focusing on trying to remember things. The actively trying to remember stuff isn't what you're trying to do. Certainly not at these, like, early phases. You are trying to build up a situation where certain things, like, effortlessly occur to you because you've been exposed to them so many times.
In Spanish that I've heard potentially hundreds of times at this point, and I am still unable to recognize, utilize, possibly even hear them because, well, I've just forgotten them. Like, I saw them once, they came up. Or I heard them once they came up, but, you know, I forgot them like 2 seconds later because, you know, for whatever reason, my brain just decided not.
Yeah, but I mean, the question is, like, let's say so let's say you hear them again in a context that maybe reminds you of the context that you last heard them. That might be different, mightn't it?
Not to remember them, okay, maybe there wasn't enough context, maybe there was enough context, but, like, still, it was just, for whatever reason, my brain just didn't like that word in that moment. Maybe for that microsecond I wasn't focused in on.
But maybe it got another word.
You know, That's the difference. You are keenly aware of what you've forgotten when you use flashcards, but when you're using this type of method, you're actually not aware of what you don't know. That's one.
Yeah, but the point is that you don't worry about that. The point is that it's not a matter of being keenly aware of what you don't know. The idea is that you're building up the things that you don't not know.
Of the benefits to this type of thing for those who don't like that type of, being reminded of their own failures.
There's a limit. No matter how good you are at that, there's a limit to how far your ability to remember and recall can take you.
Yeah.
What we know, though, of the brain.
Yeah, because it is a different thing. I mean, here we go. This is somebody else trying to explain the difference between this model, the filing cabinet model, of how brains know things, and the associative model. Let's see if David Long has any more luck than Steve Kaufman did. I'm rooting for you, Dave. Go on. Let's see it.
Limit on what experiences we can collect. Collect more, you gain more. And in language, that couldn't be more true.
Yeah, again, the word he used is experiences. Because, like, if you have an experience, not just, like, an association, not a simple pairing where it's, like, auto, car, where, auto is a thing that you've been in, and you've seen lots of them as people talk about them, and it connects to things for you. Like, the things that car doesn't necessarily, as well, is part of it. And thinking about it, when people talk about, like, you'll occasionally hear people say, their personality is different in different languages or something like that, which I think is kind of an exaggeration, but I think to the extent that that feels like that, it's probably because you don't have the same associations exactly, even with words that mean the same concepts in different languages. You build up a set of experiences in the language. You build up a set of associations in the language, and they don't necessarily map one-to-one with the associations that you have for the corresponding words in a different language.
What are the skills that our teachers use to enable the student to understand? Initially, these were developed almost by accident and all through on-the-job training. In the early days in 1984 and 85, many sleepless nights trying to decide what new experience can we provide for the students. The progress from level 1 all the way through to level 10 varies. But if we
Okay, I first watched this series back before I even started Dreaming Spanish. He's talking about 10 levels. If you go look at Dreaming Spanish, we actually only have 7 levels.
Yeah, because Dreaming Spanish is not like the only way to do this method. Dreaming Spanish is a particular approach that relies on the underlying ideas of this method, but adapts them to a particular, to particular settings. Like, so it's not going to be one-on-one exactly the way they're teaching it, at AUA in Thailand.
So we're not going to see a perfect matchup with whatever he's got to say, or maybe they go beyond this. Okay?
Yeah.
We'll see in a second.
we group our levels in a way that makes sense for the student, we can group them like this. We have 3 to 4, level 1, level 2, 3, 4, and 5 through 10. In fact, we can go 5 through 6 and 7 through 10 if necessary. But by this time, by level 5...
Okay, so this is about, like, grouping the students, I guess. Like, how do you put them in a room, put them in a room together so that they're all getting something that is useful? Like, because if you have, like, level 10 students who, let's just assume that's, like, a C1 level or something like that, and you put them in a room with level 1 students who are at A0, I mean, it's going to be boring as hell for the level 10 students. They're not going to be learning anything new from that experience. I mean, But, you know, I guess he's saying that you can put level 7 through 10 in the same room, and they'll all benefit from the sort of materials you'd use for those people.
Going off into writing classes and other sorts of classes that vary.
Okay, so they have writing classes at level 5+. Dreaming Spanish, I don't believe, actually ever talks about writing. Like, if I just go Control F, write. No, it doesn't. But if we go read...
Well, on this one... Well, let me see what you were learning. You will continue learning slang. You can explore other regional dialects, ancient literary versions, or vocabulary and other technical or scientific fields that you may want to learn about. So, like, they're not talking about it, but they're kind of talking about things related to it. It's just not what they're specifically doing.
It talks about reading. So that's interesting, because his level 5, they start with writing.
It sounded like he was saying level 10, actually. But okay.
Again, that's a difference. And the reason I say, again, that's a difference is because in my 900-hour Dreaming Spanish update, I actually talk about the fact that the more I do this, and the further I get along with the Dreaming Spanish method, the more it diverges from the traditional ALG. And in fact...
Yeah, because, I mean, it's like... This is what David Long is describing here as a classroom method. A classroom method is not going to work quite the same way for people who are learning on their own at home using online tools. You've got to do variations. Like, that does not mean that one is right and the other is not necessarily. It just means that you can adapt these approaches in different ways.
Now at the point of thinking that literally no one is doing ALG, because in order to do ALG you must be in a classroom environment, you must be engaging with teachers. The only way I think you could possibly
He is so literal. Like, where is he getting from any of these people who are proponents of ALG that ALG is a very exclusive thing like this? That if it isn't done in a particular environment, it's not really ALG. If, you know, it's not done with a particular level structure, it's not really ALG. Like, I mean, David Long's still around, apparently. You could ask him. Like, it would be interesting to know what, you know, ask David Long. Would he say that the Dreaming Spanish approach is an ALG approach? Because the thing about methods is they're constantly getting adapted. Methods are meant to do a thing with certain prerequisites that are present. And they get adapted all the time based on what's available to do them with. Because you don't always have the same things available, but you might be able to get the same outcome using a similar approach with different stuff. Like, I mean, like, he's taking method almost on a sort of a religious level.
Replicate it is if you did crosstalk for like 6 hours a day, every single day, for like a year or 2 years. Because when we're sitting here and we're just watching media, that's not the same as being in a classroom with teachers who are telling funny stories, like actively engaging with you, playing games with
yeah, I mean, yeah, that is different. That is absolutely a different experience. And I would say that is definitely a beneficial thing because it allows for a level of tailoring you're not necessarily getting with pre-made content.
And then there's obviously the difference in writing here. Like, that's a big difference. Like, you might not think it. You might think, well, what's the difference between, you know, playing games with a teacher and other classmates in a target language as opposed to watching a video of people playing, you know...
okay. I wonder, maybe he will actually recognize what the difference is here. I'll give him it. Let me see.
Games. There's a big difference because when you're just watching a video, you're kind of like third-partying this, but once you're actually engaged within it, like imagine if someone picks up this knife and they explain to you that this is sharp in the language, okay? So if you're just watching someone...
Yeah, I mean, rare moment where I'm going to say this, but he is absolutely right. This is an important difference because, like, in that context, your teacher is going to be looking to see, okay, are you understanding what I'm saying? And at changing what they say if they think that understanding has not been achieved. So if they say, okay, hand me that knife, and you look like, what the fuck, what are you talking about? Or you hand them the wrong thing, and it's not even a knife, it's a, I don't know, a giant fucking Elmo. And they go, okay, no, not that. That is a giant fucking Elmo. The knife, like, the knife, and you're like, oh, it's good for stabbing people. I understand what the knife is. You know, or whatever. Yeah, you know, somebody could do it in different ways. That would be a memorable way, and you would probably very quickly understand what is meant by knife. But yeah, I mean, that is a different thing. This is what, if you listen to Krashen's research, if you read that, he talks about what's called foreigner talk. I mean, it's not just his term. It is a term, or learner talk. These are terms that he adopts from language acquisition studies generally. And the point is that people who are dealing with non-native speakers will tend to adapt their speech to make themselves understandable to them. And so that is a big difference, and he is absolutely right about that.
Do this and, like, with someone else, you might be like...
I mean, I talk about cookery videos and stuff, because I do think they are quite useful. I have found them quite useful for, like, learning and acquiring other languages. I've picked up quite a lot of Georgian using cookery videos. But, I mean, it's not the same thing as, say, taking a one-on-one cookery class in the target language, where somebody is like, ja, also, ja, wir bräuchten dann ein bisschen Mehl, ja? And you're like, Mehl, also, das ist weiß, ja? Pulverförmig, bisschen, ja, und in so einer Dose, ja? Einer Dose, so rund, hier, also, you know, you point at it, ja, also Mehl. Mehl, das ist Mehl. And now, yeah, you know, so they're adapting it and noticing when you're not understanding something. And, you know, since the goal is to achieve understanding, they're, you know, they're breaking in, interrupting themselves and saying, yeah, okay, so let's clarify what this thing is. You know, that would probably be easier. Although, you know, there's the psychological barrier of being embarrassed because you're going to fuck things up. But, yeah.
Okay, what does he mean? Like, you might go, ooh, oh, like, then you might...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's sharp, but, like, if...
Well, I mean, yes, you wouldn't have to mime fucking, murdering people, but it would be memorable.
Meaning the feeling of the texture difference between, let's say, this and this, you know, the skin of the banana, you kind of need to feel that to associate those words. You could actually in that moment go, well, it's kind of like the English sharp, I guess. That's what they're trying to get at there. But, like, unless you're feeling that, there's a difference. And that's just one thing that just randomly popped into my head because I have a plate with a banana and a knife on it in front of me.
By level 5, students are speaking, or almost ready to speak. So levels 1, 2, and 3, they're already arriving at about 65% of their understanding of native Thai out on the road. So if we're in Thai, that's going to be going out in Thailand and listening to Thai, understanding 65%. If I go to China, I'm learning Chinese this way. I'm understanding about 65% of the words that I'm hearing around me. It's not bad. It takes a year. The second year is developed.
So it takes a year to learn 65% of Thai,
No, that's not what he said. It isn't 65% of the language. It's to be able to make sense out of 65% of what you hear. That's not the same thing.
Understanding it. And that takes us to level 5, but they have 10 levels. And Dreaming Spanish has 7 levels, okay, which obviously would be 3.5. And I'm not going to... Like, would you understand 65% of Spanish at level 3?
It's not 65% of Spanish, though. Like, listen to what he's actually saying. He's saying 65% of what you hear on the street. So, like, 65% of the fairly basic things that you would be likely to encounter in an everyday situation with random people. That's not the same thing as 65% of the entire language. But we are at 100% of the time where I go and start thinking about dinner things. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And if you enjoyed the stream and would like to support my work, tell everybody about... Oh, Riveroon. Oh, Stabby Elmo. Okay, everyone who's in the Discord, look at what Riveroon put in there. That rocks. That absolutely rocks. But if you would like to support the stream, one thing you could do is like spread the word about the crowdfunded translation project, and even if you should be so inclined and able to do so without any difficulties, provide donations to it. And if you want to show people what you get from the crowdfunded translation project, what it creates, there you have the finished... Yeah, Evil Tia better watch this back. There you have the finished translations from the current project. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and we will be back next week on Friday at 4:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Stab me, Elmo. I fucking love that. That is okay. Our channel now has like an official meme. I think I'm gonna. I may actually start using that for like thumbnails, for like when I'm doing an Evil Dia react. I don't know, but anyway, have a good rest of your weekend. I will see you next.